Has Chip been gypped? Well, according to Steve Cooper from 7 News, according to the State Pension Board, it says that now former trooper Michael Proctor needed 20 years to be vested, and they say he only has 10 years and 7 months. So he's not eligible for a state pension. He can, however, receive the money back he's contributed so far before he was fired today. Yes, you heard that right, folks. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, unless, of course, your name is Chip Proctor. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back, roommates, to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this breaking news about the fate of disgraced and now former Massachusetts State Trooper Pooper Chip Proctor, who was, in fact, yes, the lead investigator in the Karen Reed case. The trial board has found him guilty of unsatisfactory performance and alcoholic beverage charges, which we are going to get into in just a bit because it involves another one of Canton's finest and brightest and another Albert, whose name has also appeared on the defense's witness list, which was released earlier today as well.
We do want to begin with that breaking news. The state police dropping a bombshell that is just another chapter in the Karen Reed case. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Saperstone.
And I'm Melody Mendez. We're talking about Michael Proctor, the former state police trooper and one-time lead investigator in the murder trial, has been fired. Let's get right out to NBC 10's Minash Kungwari, live for us with the breaking details now. Minash.
Well, the MSP trial board found Michael Proctor guilty of unsatisfactory performance and alcohol beverage charges.
I call Trooper Michael Proctor to the stand.
Terminated, dishonorably discharged. The Mass State Police Superintendent Wednesday making the announcement in a statement that reads in part, quote, "My decision to terminate Mr. Proctor follows a thorough, fair, and impartial process."
I mean, you do have to say, the dude, even though he's been on unpaid leave, it took several months. Meanwhile, Fanning, his superior, one of his superiors, who is also involved in this investigation and has some other things that he's got to do, some splaining to do in this case, but that is a conversation for another day. His internal affairs investigation was pretty open and shut relatively quickly from when it was initiated. So if I were Chip, I'd be kind of ticked off about how this has gone down. But yeah, I do have to agree. It has been, in all fairness, quite long since this process has been going on for.
This decision reflects our unwavering commitment to upholding our values, enhancing public trust, and ensuring the highest standards of service and accountability.
But that's where you lose me. That's where you lose me a little bit there, Geoff. I mean, I appreciate you cleaning up shop a little bit, but I mean, we're also seeing reports of state troopers, I think, R-ing and assaulting underage girls. We also have reports of MSP recruits or recently graduated MSP recruits who are getting DUIs and pulled over for drunk driving. And then we also have the mystery behind the death of Enrique Delgado Garcia, the MSP recruit who was brutally bashed during a, quote, training exercise. And we have still heard absolutely nothing, no updates from the MSP in regards to that investigation as well. So while I do appreciate you coming to a decision on this and canning this, Jacko, it's still, I mean, this is just one pebble on the scale.
This decision,
she's a whack job.
in part because of Proctor's testimony during the first Karen Reed trial.
From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong.
Proctor was named the lead investigator on the John O'Keefe murder case in 2022. Less than 16 hours after being named, he sent texts to his friends that even he publicly admitted were, quote, unprofessional and regrettable.
No news so far.
Following the trial, he was immediately suspended without pay. Now, he's fired. The MSP trial board writing, when it comes to those inappropriate text messages, him providing sensitive information about a homicide victim to non-law enforcement personnel, or his, quote, unprofessional and inappropriate conduct, he was found
like holding on to Sallyport video footage for, I don't know, over 2 years. Yes, over 2 years. The defense is still getting drips and drabs of Sallyport video footage from January of 2022. Are you mother ducking kidding me?
But there's a fourth reason Trooper Proctor was fired. On July 19th of 2022, he drank multiple alcoholic beverages while eating dinner on duty and then proceeded to operate his department-issued cruiser.
With his buddy, none other, and brother too, Canton's brightest, Chris Albert, and the owner of D&E Pizza, and Brian Albert, the former Boston, another former Boston police officer, and the homeowner of 34 Fairview. So Kevin Albert and Trooper Chip Proctor, or now formerly known as Trooper Chip Proctor, were investigating a cold case after, which I always found weird, right? I don't know why there aren't more questions behind this, and maybe I'm just missing something, but I find it extremely odd and inappropriate for Chip and Kevin Albert to be investigating a cold case, whether it be unrelated to the Karen Reed case or not, right? It's just too close for comfort, just months after Officer John O'Keefe's investigation was open and shut, essentially. And then what they are talking about here is several months later. I think it was sometime in the summer of 2022 when they were out there, I guess, chasing some kind of lead. And they were like, hey, I'm hungry. We're working really hard. Let's go out and get some grub and get some beers. And then Kevin Albert's like, oh, can we stop off at the Treehouse Brewing Company or whatever the brewery was? I got to pick up a couple of 4-packs of IPAs, which, I mean, respect, I am an IPA girl. But still, you are operating a police commissioned vehicle, sir. And then those text messages about, Kevin Albert being like, oh, I don't know where I put my firearm. Did I leave it with you? Oops, with the wince emoji. I mean, it's a lot. So this is what they are referring to. Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert, Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert disciplined for what but drinking on the job. So here he is. Here's a schmuck grinning like butter would melt. Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert received 3 8-hour unpaid shifts as discipline after an independent investigative report found he drank on the job, conduct deemed unbecoming an officer while working on a cold case with, yes, none other than Chip Proctor. Police Chief Helena Rafferty. So both of these fine folks of Canton PD are also listed on the defense's potential list of witnesses that they may call. And I definitely think they should, because I think there's a lot more that they could dig into, especially in this upcoming retrial. What with anything of all of the new information and evidence that has come to light since then. Police Chief Helena Rafferty shared the report conducted by attorney Terrence M. Delanty and the details of Albert's discipline imposed on him earlier this month on Monday. So this was published back in September. So this was also pretty quickly wrapped up as well too. Wasn't heavily reported. You won't see too much of mainstream media reporting on anything that seems to point in the other direction. You'll just get people being like, how does this docuseries make Karen Reed look, instead of actually following the evidence and what is actually happening behind the scenes. Rafferty placed the detective who earned a cool $176,387.91 in total pay last year on paid admin leave the day after embattled Massachusetts former, oh, that's so good to say, former state trooper pooper Chip Proctor testified in the Karen Reed unaliving trial back in June. Text messages were presented at trial by Reed's defense attorney at AJJ. Revealed Proctor and Albert were working together on a cold case, and the two went out for drinks after an interview into the case on Cape Cod in July 2022. Wonder if they bumped into Beverly canola oil at the Joe's Crab Shack during happy hour, right? Imagine that. I think she's a Cape Cod gal. The text exchange included Albert asking if he had left his badge and firearm in Proctor's cruiser. Dell&T's investigation found Albert had just left his badge in the cruiser, so it's not that bad, guys, right? It was just his badge, right? Not a big deal. But the fact that you have to be like, dude, where's my firearm, my bang bang pointy shooty thing, right? The thing that is highly dangerous and police issued, yes, like, not a big deal. Don't worry, he didn't actually leave that in Chip Proctor's cruiser, which he retrieved the morning after and before he reported to work, which Dell&T indicated was not a violation of department policy. And if it's not, well, it dang well should. After the interview in Sandwich, Proctor and Albert stopped at the local Treehouse Brewing Company. Dell&T's report states there Albert allegedly ordered two. I mean, it's like, how is it alleged if you have a receipt, right? It's like it either is or it isn't. So Albert ordered 2 alcoholic beverages he consumed on site, and I imagine that Chip partook too, because otherwise it's just awkward watching somebody else down 2 beers and you're just sitting there like, bro, what are we doing? Like, don't tell me that Chip wasn't partaking in the beverage consumption at Treehouse Brewing Company, because I looked up pictures and it does look like quite the nice atmosphere. That cost $34. The detective also reportedly purchased 4 to 5 4-packs of IPAs. Now again, I am an IPA gal, but still, you're on taxpayers' money, bro. Proctor and Albert then drove to Flanders Field, a restaurant that has since closed in Hanover, where Albert ordered an appetizer, entree, and 2 more alcoholic drinks. So now we're up to what, 2? So that's 4. And then who knows, maybe he was drinking. I don't know who was driving. I imagine it was Proctor, since it was his cruiser they were in. So maybe he was drinking this on the road back, who knows. Where he ordered an appetizer, entree, and 2 alcoholic drinks for $68.71. That's a pretty cheap meal, actually, I gotta say. In an internal interview over the summer, Albert did not recall ordering a beer, but stated it was certainly possible, especially considering the previous day's activities, right? He also stated that he would take full responsibility for ordering 1 to 2 beers. I mean, if you have the receipts, I mean, we have at least 4 here, so what about the other 2, bro? Per Canton Police policy, officers shall not possess and or use alcohol on duty other than in an authorized duty capacity. So I imagine if they're having some kind of shindig, like Kenny Berkowitz's retirement party, right, then it's okay. In addition, officers shall conduct themselves at all times, both on and off duty, in such a manner as to reflect most favorably on the department and its members. The evidence reviewed and examined certainly indicates that Albert ordered and drank 2 beers at dinner. His report states the violation was improper and reflected unfavorably on Albert, members of the Canton Police Department. So it's pretty much almost like a regurgitated statement, the same statement Geoff Noble made today in regards to Chip Proctor regarding this particular charge of matter. Albert reportedly did not request reimbursement from the town of Canton for the dinner. Well, thank God for that, right? I mean, it doesn't matter because your salary is coming out of tax-paying dollars, so reimburse or don't reimburse, taxpayers are paying for you to get drunk on the job. But Dylan T found no evidence suggesting that Albert was under the influence of alcohol to the extent that would violate the Canton Police Department's rules regarding criminal conduct. And it's like the gall that they have, and I know it's Norfolk County that's charging Karen Reed, of course, it's not the Canton Police Department, but they have the gall to pick apart how much alcohol Karen Reed was consuming or not consuming when everybody's getting drunk in that town all the time, on and off duty. I mean, it's just, it absolutely blows my mind. The investigation also looked into a picture of Albert texted Proctor the morning after. So this is the one with a wincy face. It's bad. I was hungover for sure today. Like, can you dial back on the exclamation points? I don't get why. Like, I don't get why people of a certain age, and I'm not calling anybody out if you do this, but you don't need to write in all caps to express your emotion or use multiple explanation points, right? We could just keep it to one. Albert clarified that his text message referred to his overall fatigue from working a 16-hour shift the previous day. I mean, when I'm exhausted, and I used to work the night shift, and sometimes I work a double, you know, it's a lot of work, right? I wouldn't really describe myself as hungover, more just like overly tired, but okay. Consuming drinks at the treehouse in Flanders Field after the interview and consuming additional drinks at home. Yeah, those 4 to 5 IPA. Oh my God, you can't make this stuff up. Proctor was pulled off duty the day. Okay, so now we're back to Proctor. Canton Police Department recused itself from the investigation. No, they did not. They want you to believe that, but they didn't. They only recused themselves from the interviews, the witness interviews, even though Kevin Albert, yes, helped coordinate certain interviews by offering up the Canton Police Department interrogation rooms, I believe. So just to give you some lore there, Kevin Albert and Chip Proctor, best friend lore. Back to this.
Family releasing this statement after the termination, in part, quote, "We are truly disappointed with the trial board's decision as it lacks precedent and unfairly exploits and scapegoats one of their own. The messages prove one thing, that Michael is human."
I mean, it proves that he is a grown man who can't separate his personal emotions with his professional obligations and duties as a state police officer. Somebody whose literal job is to serve and protect. And you can't tell me, if he really has worked as a state trooper for over 10 years, you would think somewhere in his little tiny peanut brain, right, in that big giant egghead of his, that there would be an understanding of some scintilla of knowing how to separate the two. I mean, it's like, you're a homicide detective, you're a lead investigator, you've probably seen some really gruesome stuff. You've probably had to deal with some of the biggest scumbags in the world. I mean, he was also the lead investigator into the Brian Walsh case, and Brian Walsh is being accused of some pretty horrific things, of not only unaliving his wife, Anna Walsh, but chopping her body up into bits and dispersing them, I believe, in like multiple areas. So it's like, this is the case that really got to you so much. And I'm not to say, not to disregard or minimize Officer John O'Keefe's unalivement at all in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I understand that as a fellow officer, you're going to feel a certain way, you know, you're going to feel a certain connection to your brothers. But the little old Karen Reed, who's like what, 5, she can't be like much taller than me, like 5'3", 5'4", and 100 pounds. Like, really? The chick who's being alleged to have accidentally, because that's what the jury believed, accidentally hit John O'Keefe with her car? That's the case that you're just so enraged about and you can't control your emotions? I don't buy it. And if that is the case, then maybe you're not right for this kind of work. I don't know. Maybe you should rethink professions. Maybe Chris Albert has an opening at D&E Pizza. Who knows, for delivery boy.
Not corrupt, and certainly not unfit to continue being a Massachusetts state trooper. Proctor has the ability to appeal this decision. Now, this all coming as we're learning who the defense wants to take the stand in the retrial. They submitted 91 witness names to the court for perspective. In the first trial, they only submitted 77. Now, there's a good chance not all of them will take the stand, but there are two notable names, Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey and, of course, Michael Proctor. Right now, we're live here in Dedham. Manoj Kungwari, NBC 10 Boston.
And I like that they did call that out because that is pretty huge as well. So the defense released their potential list of 91 witnesses. So that was actually 5 more than what the Commonwealth had released when their witness list was released, I think, last week. Also notably, on that list is Courtney Proctor, the sister of the disgraced, now formerly known as the Massachusetts State Trooper Pooper, Chip Proctor, and his wife, Lizzie Proctor, who both sat down with a tell-all interview the other day that certainly did not age well.
More than 3 years after Trooper Michael Proctor got a call to investigate a body in the snow, his wife Elizabeth and his sister Courtney say they had no idea how much their lives and their families' lives would change, including for their young children.
But that's sort of what breaks me, is when I see them playing and so happy, and I'm like, God, they have no idea that their parents' world is crumbling.
Karen Reed's
I do feel absolutely terrible for his children. I just hope that they know that this isn't your fault, and just because your dad is the scum of the earth doesn't mean that you will grow up to be the scum of the earth. You don't have to be a product of poor parenting. And who knows, he could be a great dad, but I hope he doesn't have daughters, because if I knew my dad was talking about women in the same way that Chip Proctor was talking about Karen Reed, I don't know how you have any respect for that kind of man. So I just feel so bad for his kids, because the kids are always the victim in these things.
defense has accused Proctor of trying to frame her for the death of John O'Keefe, including by planting pieces of her SUV taillight at the scene.
Is there any doubt in your mind that Michael Proctor might have framed Karen Reed?
No doubt whatsoever in our mind. No doubt whatsoever, and the evidence shows that. The investigations show that.
During Reed's first trial, Proctor
Or lack their evidence, because he concealed evidence, Courtney, for over 2 years. The Sallyport video, does that ring a bell?
did admit to writing insulting text messages about her, including that he hoped she would kill herself.
Because the evidence pointed to this woman killing a fellow Boston police officer. So he was angry, he was upset by that. So I understand the need that he had to vent to friends, whether it was appropriate or not.
Elizabeth and
So Lizzie Proctor saying, yeah, it's okay that my husband, who's supposed to be a professional, who's been a state trooper for over 10 years, yes, it's okay. I can understand why he would vent in a highly unprofessional way about a defendant, just another defendant in another case. I mean, it's like, yes, I understand it's a fellow brother in blue, but out of every case that you've investigated, this is the one that really got under your skin to the point where you just couldn't separate your personal feelings with your professional work. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And what I will note too as well, they cut from this bit about Trooper Proctor, or formerly known as Trooper Proctor, reading text messages in court telling his sister, not Lizzie Proctor, not his wife, his sister, who's sitting next to Lizzie Proctor in this interview. He hopes that Karen Reed would unalive herself, because it would essentially make his life easier and make everything that's going on with his family, it would just take the weight off their shoulders if she just wasn't alive anymore. It's like, what scumbag says that? And Courtney, your name was all over that girl, but what they cut to here is Lizzie talking about it. This would have been a golden opportunity for the interviewer, and we know why they didn't ask them the hard-hitting question, because this was a clear, coordinated PR stunt.
So he was angry. He was upset by that. So I understand the need that he had to vent to friends, whether it was appropriate or not.
Elizabeth and Courtney Proctor say those messages do not justify the harassment they say they've received from Reed's supporters, including rocks thrown in their yards and anonymous voicemails like this.
I'm going to be your kid's new mommy, and I'm taking your kids and I'm taking your dogs.
A blogger named Aiden Carney, who goes by the name Turtle Boy, has been charged with witness intimidation in this case, but the Proctors say he's not the only one responsible.
It seems like Karen Reed and Aiden have been conspiring and colluding.
Oh, is that true? Because that kind of sounds a little bit defamatory. I mean, yeah, it can seem that way to you, but that's not at all true, Lizzie Proctor, and you know that because they were never indicted on charges for co-conspiring with one another, which we talked about in my video yesterday. So go ahead, keep throwing that out there.
Now, prosecutors have said that Carney and Reed have been communicating, but at this point she is not charged with witness intimidation. Recently, the prosecutors confirmed that a federal investigation into potential misconduct connected to the Reed case concluded without charging Proctor or anyone else. His family say that the feds checked 5 years worth of personal emails and text messages and found no other problems. Live in Canton, David Bieniek, WCVB News Center.
I mean, they can say whatever they want until they're blue in the face, but that don't make it true. That don't make it true. So if you are new to this case, just know that not everything you see, hear, and read is always accurate. And do your own homework, man. Just like watch the trial. Read the motions. Read the documents. It's all out there online for your consumption. And, you know, if you're an somewhat educated person, you don't have to be, you know, a college graduate to understand or to form your own opinion. So I'll leave it at that. But back to this. So Proctor, yeah, he faced allegations of misconduct and criticism of his highly offensive text messages about Reed that were, I mean, that's putting it lightly. Not only did he call her a whack job, but he also made fun of her illness, which is extremely disturbing and disgusting. Something that she's been struggling with. Not even just during this case, but this has made it even more difficult on her and probably has taken even a bigger toll on her personal health as well, her physical health. He admitted on the stand that those messages were unprofessional and regrettable, but not once did he say he was sorry. State police said the unsatisfactory performance charges stem from derogatory, defamatory, disparaging, and or otherwise inappropriate text messages about a suspect in connection with the Reed case. I wonder if he talks about all his suspects the same way too, right? Or his victims, or just women in general, right? I would love to know what kind of messages you were sending your buddies about Anna Walsh, right? The trial board also found that he provided sensitive and or confidential information about a homicide victim, potential witnesses, and or potential investigative steps in the investigation to non-law enforcement personnel. Yeah, remember when he also said that Brian Albert's probably not going to get into any trouble because he's a cop? He's a Boston cop. Yeah, remember that one? That was also said in that text exchange as well. And failed to conform to work standards by creating an image that he was biased in his dealings with the Reed case. I mean, how many times do you see a lead investigator crack the code to the case within a 16-hour period without actually ever visiting the crime scene until days later, when evidence just start magically revealing itself? So here is the actual personnel order. So let's just take a quick look at this. The findings of the trial board held on January 15th, 2025, February 10, and March 13th in pursuance of personnel order, yada yada, dated January 6, 2025, have been approved by the Colonel Superintendent Trooper Michael D. Proctor. ID number 3863 is hereby found guilty, 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 guilty Bang, bang. That's what we call a bang, bang, mother ducker. Trooper, well, formerly known as Chip Proctor, on various dates between January 29th, 2022 and August 17th, 2022, did fail to conform to the work standards established for the member's rank, title, or position, and or did fail to take appropriate action in the occasion of a crime, disorder, and or other condition deserving state police attention. This occurred when Trooper Proctor, while assigned as the lead investigator, or according to him, the case officer, in a unaliving investigation, sent derogatory, defamatory, disparaging. So that's the key. It's not just derogatory, it's defamatory, it's disparaging, and or otherwise inappropriate text messages about a suspect in that investigation to other individuals, including his sister, Courtney Proctor. This action is in direct violation of Article 5.82. This is a Class A violation. This is something else that's been on my mind too. So it's like, bro, you had plenty of time to update your sister, like throughout that entire day, but or throughout the entire course of this investigation, but not enough time to drop by 34 Fairview the day of the investigation when it kicked off. You're the lead investigator, but you have no problem live updating your sister about what's going on, even though you haven't visited the scene of the crime. Okay, make it make sense. Trooper Proctor, on various dates between January 29th, 2022 and June 9th, 2022, did fail to conform to work standards established for the member's rank, title, and or position, and or did fail to take appropriate action on the occasion of a crime, disorder, or other condition deserving state police attention. This occurred when Chip, while assigned as the lead investigator in an unaliving investigation, provided sensitive and or confidential information about an unaliving victim, potential witnesses, and or, so potential witnesses meaning Brian Albert per se, and other potential or potential investigative steps in the investigation to non-law enforcement personnel. This action is in direct violation of Article 5.82. This is a Class A violation. Trooper Chip Proctor, through his actions on various dates between January 29th and August 17th, 2022, did fail to conform to the work standards established for the member's rank, title, or position, and or did fail to take appropriate action on the occasion of a crime, disorder, or other conditions assigned as deserving state police attention. This occurred when Chip, while assigned as the lead investigator in the investigation, through his unprofessional and inappropriate conduct, created an image that he was biased in his dealings with a suspect and or brought otherwise himself and the Massachusetts State Police into disrepute. And like I said before, I mean, it's not just Chip Proctor that's making the MSP look bad these days. It's a lot of your guys. So maybe you got to do like a clean out or something, right? Clean house a little bit. This action is in direct violation of Article 5.82. This is a Class A violation. Chip, on July 19th, 2022. So then this is the Kevin Albert stuff. Here, this was a Class B violation. B, all right, so this is the result. B, terminated, dishonorably discharged, official Geoff D. Noble, Colonel, Superintendent. So that happened this morning, and I have to say, I am with a lot of you when I say I am absolutely shocked. I thought they were going to prolong this thing as long as possible. That said, this could be, again, just kind of a strategic move. I mean, back during the first trial, we were all kind of curious to see how Lally was going to handle direct examination with all of this, all the oodles of evidence that make him look really bad. And Lally did confront it head on in, I guess, the way that he felt he could do it best. So it seems like there's a couple of different avenues the Commonwealth can go with this. They can call him as a witness themselves. I mean, he's on both the Commonwealth's witness list as well as the defense's witness list, so somebody's going to call him. I wonder if that opens the door to whether or not they can talk about him being fired, because he's not a state trooper anymore. So, I mean, you can't address him as Trooper Proctor, but, you know, I guess you can use verbiage like, oh, the former lead investigator, yada, yada. So we'll see. But if I were him, I'd be totally ticked off to know that my superiors totally got demoted, but I mean, he really essentially got a little tap on the bum there. And Yuri Quacky, I mean, he barely got anything. So who knows? I mean, who knows who, if anybody, he's going to be throwing under the bus. I mean, I probably would, but because he's not, to keep it a buck here, he's not the only one who's responsible for all this. So this is from Geoff. Our mission is to deliver the highest level of police services. It's incumbent upon me as well as every member of this department to hold one another accountable when any member compromises our mission by failing to uphold our values. As superintendent, my role demands that I do what is best in the best interest of the department. My decision to terminate Mr. Proctor follows a thorough, fair, and impartial process. I have weighed the nature of the offenses, their impact on our investigative integrity, and the importance of safeguarding the reputations of our dedicated women and men in the state police. Again, this decision reflects our unwavering commitment, yada yada. Finally, recognizing the ways in which this process has affected the family of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, I would also like to renew our condolences to them. Proctor had been relieved of duty, transferred out of Norfolk District Attorney's Office, and suspended without pay immediately following the July 2024 mistrial. So not even after his testimony, after the actual mistrial was declared. In addition to being the lead investigator in the case, Proctor was a key prosecution witness. State police began conducting an internal affairs investigation after details about misconduct emerged during the trial. This is just more about Karen Reed, but yeah, who knows if this is gonna push things out further. I think if I'm recalling correctly, the defense filed a motion earlier today to continue the start date of the trial, I think either on or sometime after April 25th, if I'm recalling correctly. And I believe the Commonwealth, like they did in round one, I would imagine they would want the same. He can appeal. Okay, so he can appeal to the trial board's decision to the Civil Service Commission, but state police said they are confident the evidence is sufficient. You could say that again, for civil service to affirm Noble's decision to terminate him. So if you enjoyed today's content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next Karen Reed update from me, and make sure you hit that like button because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is newsworthy news, and it is, because there is a lot of stuff that isn't being reported. So if you want to continue to rage with me, let's keep on raging. I believe we are in court again tomorrow to go over some of the remaining motions that weren't discussed the other day. So if we are, I'll keep you posted there as to what happens. But until then, I will see you